I couldn't get much tonight.
It started with a blurry clip no one was supposed to see. A hidden camera, placed on a city bus in Denver, recorded something that didn't fit any report or rule. A man in a faded uniform, dark circles under his eyes, stopping his route at an empty corner, and handing out food to a group of children waiting under a streetlight. He wasn't talking. He wasn't posing. He was just feeding them. The man was 52-year-old bus driver Henry Cole. Every night for the past 6 months, he finished his last route after midnight. And before returning the bus, he parked quietly on Oak Ridge Avenue. What no one knew was that, at that exact spot, a small group of homeless kids gathered behind a broken fence, waiting for him. Henry never told anyone. Not his supervisor, not his co-workers, not even his landlord, who wondered why he was always short on rent. When the transportation department upgraded its surveillance cameras in early 2021, they were meant to catch fare evaders and reckless drivers. Instead, one camera caught Henry stepping off the bus with brown paper bags, setting them on the curb, and smiling as a group of small hands reached out from the shadows. When management saw the footage, they thought he was stealing company food. So they sent someone to investigate, quietly. His name was Tom Garcia, an undercover inspector known for catching rule breakers. On February 12, Tom boarded bus 47 pretending to be a regular passenger. Henry greeted him with a polite nod and a tired smile. He looked like the kind of man who carried too much kindness and too little money. His uniform was clean but worn thin. For the next few days, Tom rode Henry's bus, morning and night. Henry never raised his voice, never complained, and never took shortcuts. But every night, when the city lights dimmed and the roads went empty, he stopped at that same corner. And on the fourth night, Tom saw it. Henry turned off the engine, reached under his seat, pulled out a cardboard box. Then, one by one, little figures began to appear from behind the fence, kids, maybe 7 to 13 years old, wrapped in oversized jackets. He handed them sandwiches, juice boxes, even blankets. Then he just sat down on the curb, talking softly with them. Tom sat frozen. He was supposed to film the violation. Instead, he couldn't even breathe. Later that night, Tom reported what he saw, but left out the part about the children. His supervisor wasn't happy. They demanded he record proof of Henry misusing department supplies. So Tom returned the next evening, this time with a small hidden camera clipped inside his jacket. But what he recorded didn't just change his report, it changed everything. That night, Henry didn't have the usual box of food. He looked nervous, glancing at his phone. When the kids appeared, he apologized. "I couldn't get much tonight," he said softly. He handed out 2 bags of chips, a few apples, and 1 loaf of bread. Then, one of the kids, a girl with messy brown hair, hugged him. "It's okay, Mr. Henry. You always show up." Tom's camera caught it all. But instead of evidence of theft, it captured raw humanity. The next day, Tom went back to headquarters. But he couldn't bring himself to submit the video. Something about Henry haunted him. So, he decided to dig deeper. Henry lived in a rundown apartment near the bus depot. His neighbors said he used to be a teacher, until a car accident left him unable to stand for long periods. He lost his job, his insurance, and his home. But instead of giving up, he became a driver. Every week, he used most of his paycheck to buy food for those street kids, children whose parents were addicts, gone, or worse. No one told him to. No one paid him for it. He did it because, years ago, his own son had gone missing on those same streets. Tom realized something then: Henry wasn't breaking rules. He was breaking himself to help others. But the system didn't care. When Tom's supervisor noticed the missing report, they assumed he was hiding something. So they accessed the bus footage themselves, and within hours, Henry was suspended for unauthorized route deviation and misuse of city property. When Tom heard, he rushed to Henry's home. The old man opened the door, calm but tired. "They're just doing their job," Henry said quietly. "Maybe this is how it's supposed to end." Tom shook his head. "No. Not like this." He showed Henry the video he recorded, the one that showed the kids, their faces, their gratitude. "I think people need to see this," Tom said. Henry hesitated. "Those kids, they don't need fame. They need food." But Tom had already made up his mind. The next morning, he uploaded the footage anonymously under the title, "The Kindness They Tried to Fire." Within 48 hours, it went viral. Millions of views. Thousands of comments. People recognized the corner, the bus, even Henry's faded jacket. Local news stations picked it up. Strangers started donating money and food. By the end of the week, the mayor himself issued a statement. Henry's suspension was lifted. He was offered his job back, but Henry refused. "I think it's time I do this full-time," he said with a small smile. He used the donation money to open a small outreach center, the same spot where he used to park his bus. He named it Route 47. Every night, the same kids came back. Only now, they weren't meeting behind fences. They were inside, warm, laughing, safe. Tom visited often. He never told Henry he was the one who posted the video. He didn't have to. Henry seemed to know. Months passed. The story faded online. But one evening, as Tom walked by the shelter, he noticed something strange. A framed photograph on the wall, a boy, about 10 years old, smiling in a school uniform. "Who's that?" Tom asked. Henry smiled softly. "That's my son, Daniel. He went missing 12 years ago." Tom froze. The photo looked familiar. He had seen that face before, in one of the viral clips, the night the story first broke. Among the crowd of kids Henry helped feed, one boy had lingered longer than the others, helping carry the boxes. He had the same scar above his eyebrow. The same eyes. But before Tom could say anything, Henry added quietly, "You know, one of those kids told me something strange once. Said his older brother used to drive a bus. Said his name was Daniel." Tom's heart stopped. He opened his mouth to speak, but Henry just smiled and looked out the window. "Maybe some roads find their way home after all," he whispered. And that's where the camera cuts to black. Because no one knows what happened next. Only that the man they once called a thief might have found the one thing he'd been driving toward all along. Tom couldn't sleep that night. The image of that photograph, Henry's son, Daniel, kept burning in his mind. Same eyes. Same scar. Same quiet smile. He replayed the footage on his laptop. Frame by frame. And there he was, the boy helping carry food boxes, glancing at Henry like he recognized him but couldn't say why. It didn't make sense. Daniel had been missing for 12 years. The police file said he vanished one night while walking home from school. No body. No leads. Just gone. So how could he be one of the kids Henry fed every night on the streets? Tom zoomed in on the clip. The boy wore a torn hoodie with the letters SD scribbled on the sleeve. He froze the frame. His pulse quickened. He had to know. The next morning, Tom went to the shelter, Route 47. Henry was already there, unpacking groceries. The kids were helping, smiling. But the boy from the video wasn't there. Tom asked casually, "That boy who helped you last week, brown hair, scar on his eyebrow. Haven't seen him?" Henry paused. His hands trembled slightly. "You mean Jay?" he said softly. "He hasn't come back in 3 days." 3 days. Tom felt a chill crawl down his neck. "Do you know where he stays?" Henry shook his head. "He never said." "None of them do. I just try to be here when they need me." Tom nodded, but his instincts screamed something else. Jay, if that was really Daniel, might be in danger. That night, Tom drove back to Oak Ridge Avenue, parking near the same broken fence where Henry used to stop his bus. He waited. Hours passed. Cold wind. Silence. Then, movement. A group of kids slipped out of the alley, carrying small backpacks. Tom stepped out quietly. "Hey. I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to talk." The smallest one, a girl with red braids, narrowed her eyes. "You're one of those reporters, aren't you?" Tom shook his head. "No. I'm looking for Jay." The kids exchanged nervous glances. Finally, one spoke. "You mean Daniel?" Tom's breath caught. "Daniel?" "Yeah," the boy said. "That's what the old man calls him. He hates it though. Says that name's cursed." Tom's mind spun. It was him. "Where is he?" The kids hesitated, then the girl whispered, "He got taken 2 nights ago." Tom's heart dropped. Taken? By who? The girl looked around before leaning closer. "A man in a black van. He said he worked for the city. We didn't believe him. But Jay, he went anyway. Said he didn't want to get Mr. Henry in trouble." Tom stepped back. His chest tightened. A man in a van. Said he worked for the city. Only one department had that kind of access, the Transportation Authority. The next morning, Tom stormed into the office. He went straight to his supervisor's door. "Where's the boy?" he demanded. His supervisor looked up, cold and calm. "What boy?" "Don't play with me." "The kid from the footage. The one with Henry. You sent someone to get him." The supervisor leaned back, fingers steepled. "Garcia, you're letting your emotions cloud your judgment. That boy is a runaway. He's being processed by social services." Tom clenched his fists. "Processed where?" "Confidential," the man said. "Drop it." But Tom couldn't. He knew when someone was lying, and this wasn't just about bureaucracy. Something was being covered up. He went home, pulled every file, every internal memo from the department's system. Buried deep, he found a report marked classified. The subject line read, "Unregistered minors frequenting Route 47 shelter, potential liability risk." Attached was a list. 12 names. 11 accounted for. 1 missing, Daniel Cole. Tom felt his stomach twist. Henry didn't even know his son was alive. And now, someone had taken him again. He returned to the shelter that night. Henry was alone, cleaning up. Tom hesitated, then said it. "Henry, I think Daniel's alive." Henry froze. The mop handle slipped from his hand. "What did you say?" "I think he's one of the kids you've been helping. He's been using the name Jay." Henry's eyes filled with tears. His lips trembled. "No, no, that can't be." Tom showed him the photo from the footage. The resemblance was undeniable. Henry sank into a chair. "My God, all these years." Tom leaned closer. "But he's missing again. Someone took him." Henry looked up slowly, voice breaking. "Then we're getting him back." They started with the kids. Tom tracked down the girl with red braids. She remembered part of the van's license plate, 7XK. It was enough. Through a contact in the department, Tom traced it to a private security contractor, Vanguard Compliance. A company hired by the city to manage homeless youth. Only, there was no official record of where those kids ended up. Henry's hands shook as he read the file. They're taking them off the streets and, what? Selling them? Tom didn't answer. But his silence said enough. 2 nights later, they found the facility. An abandoned warehouse near the edge of town, fenced and patrolled. Tom parked 2 blocks away. Henry followed, limping slightly but determined. They waited until midnight. Then snuck in through a side gate. Inside, faint lights flickered through the windows. Rows of cots. Children sleeping. Guards pacing. Henry whispered, "There he is." Daniel sat near the far wall, head down, hugging his knees. But before Henry could move, a voice echoed. "Step away from the door, Mr. Cole." Tom turned. His supervisor stood there, flanked by 2 guards. "I warned you," the man said coldly. "You should have dropped it." Henry stepped forward. "Where's my son?" The man smiled faintly. "He's not your son anymore. He's property of the program now." Tom lunged, but one of the guards slammed him against the wall. Henry shouted, "Daniel! Run!" The boy's head snapped up. His eyes widened. "Dad?" Then chaos erupted. Henry rushed forward. Tom broke free, swinging wildly. The alarm blared. Kids screamed. Through the noise, Henry reached his son. He grabbed him, trembling, whispering, "It's me. It's Dad." Daniel's voice cracked. "I thought you forgot me." "I never stopped looking," Henry said, tears cutting through the dirt on his face. Tom shouted, "Go!" The back door. They ran through the narrow corridor as red lights flashed. Outside, sirens wailed. Henry pushed Daniel into Tom's arms. "Get him out." Tom turned. "What about you?" Henry smiled faintly. "Someone's gotta hold them off." Before Tom could argue, Henry shoved him toward the gate and turned back. The last thing Tom saw was Henry standing in the doorway, facing the guards. And then the building exploded in light. The next morning, the headlines exploded too. Illegal child program exposed after warehouse fire. City investigates missing minors linked to transportation contract. Tom and Daniel survived. Barely. But Henry was gone. Or so they thought. 3 weeks later, Tom received an unmarked envelope. Inside was a photo. It showed a bus parked by the ocean. And sitting inside, wearing a familiar uniform, was Henry Cole. The back of the photo read only 4 words. Route 47 still runs. Tom looked out. The envelope didn't have a return address. Just that one photograph. The ocean. The bus. Henry Cole. Alive. Tom stared at it for hours, his fingers tracing the edges. Was it real? Or some cruel trick? He showed Daniel. The boy's eyes widened. "That's him," he whispered. "That's Dad's jacket. He's alive." But if Henry was alive, where was he? Tom noticed something in the corner of the picture, a sign, barely visible behind the bus. "Welcome to Crescent Bay." A small coastal town, 300 miles away. 2 days later, they were on the road. Daniel sat in the passenger seat, silent, staring out the window. "Do you think he remembers us?" he asked. Tom smiled faintly. "Son, I think he never forgot." The highway stretched endlessly, dust swirling across the sunset. By the time they reached Crescent Bay, the air smelled like salt and rain. But something felt wrong. The town was too quiet. Shops shuttered. People staring. Like they'd seen ghosts before. Tom parked near the pier and asked around. Bus driver? Old man named Henry? An old fisherman pointed toward a cliffside road. Yeah. He's been running a free route for months. Picks up kids from the shelters in town. Drives them to school. Never asks for money. Tom's heart ached. That sounded like Henry. Always giving, even when he had nothing left. They followed the road until they saw it. The bus. Old, dented, but still painted with the faded city logo, Route 47. It was parked near the edge of a bluff, overlooking the sea. The door was open, curtains fluttering in the breeze. Daniel ran first. Dad. No answer. Inside, the bus looked like a small home, blankets, food boxes, and drawings taped to the windows. One of them caught Tom's eye. It was a crayon sketch, a man and a boy holding hands, with the words, "Together again soon." Tom's throat tightened. He's close. Then he saw something else, a folded note taped to the steering wheel. He read aloud. "If you found this, it means you weren't meant to give up. They'll come looking for me again. Don't let them find Daniel. Route 47 still runs, but not for me." Before Tom could finish, a sound came from outside, the distant hum of engines. Daniel looked up. They found us. Black vans. Same as before. Coming fast. Tom grabbed Daniel's arm. "Run to the cliffside. Go." But Daniel froze. "He's still out there. We can't leave him again." Tom turned, and then he saw him. Henry. Walking up the dirt path from the rocks below, drenched, limping, carrying a small box. "Dad!" Daniel shouted. Henry smiled weakly. "You came back." Tom ran toward him. "Henry, we have to go. They're coming." But Henry shook his head. "No. This ends tonight." He opened the box. Inside was a flash drive. "The truth," he said. "Everything about the program. Every kid they took. Every name they erased." Tom's eyes widened. "You kept evidence?" Henry nodded. "They tried to burn it all. I kept the fire going." The van skidded to a stop. Men in suits spilled out, shouting. "Henry Cole! Step away from the vehicle." Daniel grabbed his father's hand. "Please, let's go." Henry looked down at his son, the boy he thought he'd lost forever. "You remember what I told you?" Daniel nodded through tears. "Good people never stop driving." Henry smiled. "That's right." Then he turned to Tom. "You take him. Get that drive to the press." Tom hesitated. "What about you?" Henry looked out at the ocean. "I've got one last route to finish." Before Tom could stop him, Henry climbed into the bus. The engine roared to life, louder than it ever had before. The men shouted, guns raised, surrounding the road. Henry looked out the window, one last time, at his son and the man who had saved them both. "Tell him I love him," he said softly. Tom shouted, "Henry, don't." But it was too late. The bus lurched forward, straight toward the barricade. The men scrambled. Tires screeched. Metal screamed. And then, silence. The bus plunged off the edge of the cliff. A burst of flame lit the horizon. Daniel screamed, running toward the edge, but Tom held him back. Waves crashed below. Smoke rose. And Route 47 was gone. 3 months later. A video hit the internet. Grainy, shaky, but powerful. It showed files, documents, faces of children, logos of companies, and a voice. Calm, steady, familiar. Henry Cole's voice. If you're watching this, it means the truth finally made it home. They called me a criminal. But all I ever did was drive toward hope. Route 47 wasn't just a bus route. It was a promise. That no child would ever be left waiting by the road again. The video ended with the same sign from the photo. Welcome to Crescent Bay. Tom stood in front of a crowd of reporters, holding Daniel's hand. The flash drive had exposed everything: the corruption, the abductions, the lies. The city officials were arrested. Vanguard compliance was gone. And the world finally knew the name Henry Cole, not as a bus driver, but as the man who drove straight into history. Months later, Daniel visited the cliff where Route 47 ended. The sea was calm. He placed a small toy bus on the rocks. Behind him, a stranger in a hooded jacket walked by, humming softly. Daniel turned, but the man was already gone. Only a note fluttered in the wind, wedged under the toy bus. It said, "Keep driving, son." Daniel smiled through tears. Because somehow, somewhere, he knew, Route 47 still ran. That's the end. The redemption. The truth. The legend of Route 47. A man who broke every rule to feed hungry children. And in the end, fed the whole world with hope.